Hello, everyone. My name is Raphael, and just a few months ago, I could barely form a sentence in English. Words would get stuck in my mind, and I would panic when trying to speak. I'm here today to tell you how I learned to speak English confidently in just 5 months, all without spending a fortune on classes, without traveling to an English-speaking country, and without using complicated methods that don't work. This is not just my story. It's your story too. If you've ever felt stuck, frustrated, or embarrassed because of your English, keep watching. I've been there. I know exactly how it feels, and I promise that if you follow my journey step by step, you'll know exactly how to improve your English. Let's rewind to the beginning. My journey didn't start with motivation. It started with a massive failure that changed my life forever. I've always dreamed of working for a global tech company. I've always loved coding, and for years, I worked non-stop to get better at it. Finally, after a lot of hard work, I applied for a job in a big company in the United States. I got an email saying, "Congratulations, you've been selected for an interview." I was thrilled. I imagined a new life in the US, working with the best in the field and earning a great salary. But then, everything fell apart. The interview was like a nightmare. I opened Zoom, and there were 3 interviewers, all native English speakers. The moment they started speaking, it felt like they were speaking a completely different language. They asked me to introduce myself and talk about my experience. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but the words just didn't come out. I stuttered, and my answers were awkward. They looked at each other, and then one of them smiled and said, "All right, Raphael, thank you for your time." I failed. Not because I wasn't qualified for the job, but because my English wasn't good enough. That was the moment I realized how important English is. It wasn't just a language, it was the key to my dreams. So, that night, I made a decision. I would learn English, and I would learn it fast. I knew I couldn't rely on expensive classes. I had tried them before, but they didn't work for me. So I created my own method, and I want to share it with you today. Step 1. The first 15 days. Fixing the basics. Most beginners think they need to learn more vocabulary, but that's not true. I already knew hundreds of words, but I couldn't speak. For the first 15 days, I didn't study any new words. Instead, I focused on using the words I already knew. Here's what I did. I made a list of survival sentences, things I needed to say every day. For example, "Hello, how are you?" Or, "Can you repeat that?" Every day I read these sentences out loud, 10 times each. I started speaking to myself in English, no matter where I was. In the shower, I would say things like, "I'm taking a shower, and the water feels nice." While making breakfast, I would talk about what I was doing. It felt silly at first, but it was my own private classroom. I practiced 5 sentences a day from movies or real conversations, and I repeated them until I could match the native speaker's speed, tone, and emotion. This helped me sound more natural. By the end of these first 15 days, something clicked. I wasn't translating in my head anymore. I could say simple sentences without thinking. Step 2. Real practice begins after 15 days of building confidence with basic sentences. I was ready to take my speaking to the next level. I wanted to speak like a native, and I had to practice every day. I started using a method called the question-answer method. Here's how it worked. I asked myself simple questions in English, like, "What did you do today?" I answered immediately without thinking, adding more details to each answer. For example, "I worked on a project." Then I would add, "I worked on a project for 2 hours and then took a break." The goal was to train my brain to think quickly in English. Next, I worked on my pronunciation using the echo technique. I listened to native speakers, whether from movies, podcasts, or YouTube, and repeated their sentences right after them. At first, it was hard, but the more I did it, the better my accent got. Step 3. Understanding the structure. After 3 months, I knew I needed to improve my grammar and sentence structure. The English I learned in school wasn't exactly what native speakers used in real life. So, I started observing how native speakers constructed their sentences. I paid attention to things like tenses and prepositions, small details that can make you sound more natural. I wrote a daily journal in English and read English blogs and books to understand sentence structures. The more I practiced, the more my brain started thinking in English. Final breakthrough: speaking confidently. The real turning point for me came when I joined an online group to practice English with people from around the world. At first, I was nervous, but soon I realized everyone was there to learn, just like me. I made friends and practiced together. After 5 months, I was finally able to speak with confidence. I no longer hesitated when I spoke. I understood what others were saying without translating, and I could express myself naturally. Then, I applied for my dream job again. This time, I walked into the interview with confidence. I was no longer the guy who struggled with English. I was the guy who had mastered it. And guess what? I got the job. Now, let me share the key lessons I learned that helped me become fluent in just 5 months. Mindset is everything. Believe you can learn English, and you will. If I can do it, so can you. Speak without fear. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are part of the process. Surround yourself with English. Make English a part of your life. Change your phone's language to English. Listen to English podcasts and watch movies in English. Consistency over perfection. Practice every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Consistency is key. Learn in context. Instead of memorizing vocabulary lists, learn words and phrases in context. This makes it easier to remember and use them naturally. I hope my story inspires you to start your own journey today. Remember, if you keep working at it, you will succeed. The key is to never give up.